Hey everyone, welcome to PD in Your PJs. We are super excited for you to join us here today. Just a few announcements before we dive into our presentation. You will hear us talking. We are recording this session and we'll email it to you after. We will also send you the slides as well. So keep that in mind as we go through our ideas here today. We are really excited to talk about the Global Read Aloud tonight, and specifically ideas that you can use with Seesaw to help your students connect and reflect during the Global Read Aloud. So we are excited to walk through these ideas with you. I'm Angela, and I lead the community team here at Seesaw. I am out of my kindergarten classroom where I have been teaching for 15 years, and my kindergartners love the Global Read Aloud. It was just such a great way to share some awesome books and at the same time create connections with students from all around the world. And Julie's here tonight as well. Julie.
Hi there, I'm Julie. I'm just out of the high school ELA classroom where I taught for 18 years. I'm on the community team at Seesaw. I actually did Global Read Aloud for the first time last year with 12th graders. We're so excited tonight, though, because we have Pernille Ripp with us, the founder of Global Read Aloud. She's going to talk for a few minutes tonight, give us a little bit of information about what the Global Read Aloud is, how she developed it, and then what the selections are for this year. Take it away, Pernille.
And hello, everyone. I am super excited to be here coming live from Madison, Wisconsin, where I am sitting and just recovering after a phenomenal day with my 107th graders. So the Global Read Aloud is meant to be simple. I think we as teachers already have a lot to do and a lot of content to cover and explore with our kids. And it started with an incredibly simple idea. Started on a summer night driving in the car with my husband, and we were listening to NPR, and they mentioned Neil Gaiman. And I love Neil Gaiman very much, so we turned it up, and they were talking about this Twitter project that was happening that summer. This was in the summer of 2010, where someone had selected American Gods, and then they were using a common hashtag to share their thoughts. And as the story goes, I turned to my husband and said, you know, someone should do that for kids. And he said, well, why don't you? Well, my husband says that this never actually happened, but I'm going to stick with the story. And so that's how the Global Read Aloud started, picking a book and just reading it aloud and knowing that others were reading it aloud at the same time. And it has always been without lesson plans. It has always been, here are the books, make it whatever you can and connect in some way. And sometimes people connect simply by knowing they're part of something bigger than they are. And other times they connect with a lot of classrooms, and sometimes they just make one connection with one classroom and that's enough. It was important for me, and has been for the last 7 years, that no matter the technology and no matter the access, you would be able to participate. Because this isn't just a tech project. While Seesaw obviously is an amazing tool to use for connection, I also want to make sure that those schools that don't have access to these incredible programs can still be a part of it. Because it's really about the books. And it's about making the world kinder and making us understand each other even when we feel like people are very far away, both in location and also in ideas. And so the Global Read Aloud is a very organic project. It has grown beyond my wildest dreams, and yet now the number has grown so big that it doesn't even seem possible or real. And so this year, as we crested 2 million students just signed up for this year, meaning that we've connected, or we will have connected 4 million students or more, that number doesn't matter. In a way, it matters very little, because what really matters are the one-to-one connections that are happening between classrooms. So whether it was 2 classrooms signed up or the 26,000 different locations that are doing it this year, it's really just about that human connection. And so it's been a crazy ride. And I encourage anyone that wants to do it to make it work for them. You know, do as much or as little as you feel comfortable doing. Pick a tool such as Seesaw or any of the other tools that people use. Join the community. I am blown away by all of the ideas out there being shared. And I know you're going to hear some of those great ideas tonight. And then reach out to others. One of the strengths of the Global Read Aloud is truly that you're bringing other people into your classroom. And many people report all about the continued connecting that they've done after the Global Read Aloud. So it's who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that this little idea about using books to connect others would still be going so strong?
Pernille, do you want to talk a little bit about this year's selection for the Read Aloud?
Absolutely, and I'll make it brief for the others. So it's always hard to select the books, and the selection process takes all year for me. So this year I knew it's really important for me that we try to bring in the actual global aspect of the Global Read Aloud. And so when it came to picture book choices, Mem Fox was a finalist last year, and this year it just felt like this should be Mem's year. Many of us hold memories already with Mem Fox books, and I really wanted to highlight her work. And then for the younger readers, I met Victoria Coe at NCT or at ILA, and she said, "I'd love if you would read my book." And I read it that day on the airplane, and I had that moment of, oh gosh, this would be such an incredible book, because so many kids would be able to connect with it, right? The dog and the story told from the dog's perspective, and thinking about perspective. How do we view the world coming from wherever we're coming from? And then, of course, The Wild Robot was a crowd favorite right from the start. Again, it's not set in a specific place, and so how do we fit in when we feel like we are completely different, and what does it mean to feel different? A Long Walk to Water was one that I played around with for a long time. I've read it myself, and my students absolutely love the book, and I think it's so important, the connections that we can make to the Lost Boys of Sudan, what's going on now. That's also why I've partnered up with Water for South Sudan as the charity chosen for this year that people can choose to create service projects for. And then, of course, A Monster Calls. I saw the power of A Monster Calls in my own classroom last year with an intervention class that I did. And I saw these big, rough and tumble boys in their 8th hour get very, very quiet as they fell into the pages of A Monster Calls. And it's a hard story, but it's a story that really starts a lot of conversations about love and family and, again, perspective. And I think that's always the main motivator behind any of the choices. What's the lens that we view this world with, and how does that color and sometimes darken how we function in this world? So I'm incredibly excited for the choices. All of the books are phenomenal and will add to the Read Aloud experience, of course.
Thank you so much, Pernille. We know you have a lot to do to get ready for your students tomorrow, so if you have to say goodbye, that's totally fine. What wonderful selections this year for the Read Aloud, though. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, and reach out if I can ever be of service. I don't know if I'll email you back right away. This week is kind of crazy, but reach out, because it is truly a community waiting to just support you and make it work for you.
Thanks, Pernille. We're excited to welcome a few other teachers with us tonight during this webinar. We want to talk about some key ways that teachers are using Seesaw during this Global Read Aloud. We're going to talk a little bit about connecting with Seesaw blogs. We're going to have some teachers share how they have app smashed in preparation for the GRA. We'll also talk a little bit about book snaps and then other ways your students can use the Seesaw tools for their reading responses. Here are some of the folks we have with us tonight. We have Michelle, Kim, and 2 Sarahs with us tonight to share some ideas. And you'll see their little faces at the bottom of the slides when it's their ideas being shared. So the first thing we're going to talk about is connecting with those Seesaw blogs, and Michelle will be ready to talk some about that and share the idea that she's using. If you don't already use Seesaw blogs, you might want to click the link that's in blue there at the top of the screen later when these slides are emailed to you. A Seesaw blog is an extension of your class or the journal that your students are already keeping, but it is a way to publish those student posts to a broader or more global audience. So when we're thinking about connecting globally during this Read Aloud, the Seesaw blog is the perfect way to make those connections with other classrooms. And if Michelle is ready, I'm going to have her talk a little bit about what she's done with this in the last couple of years.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes, sounding good
Okay.
from here, Michelle.
All right, I had a little bit of technical difficulty, so thank you for bearing with me. So I feel like this might be, I don't know, I guess I don't remember how long GRA has been around, but I feel like this is maybe my 4th year using it or doing the project, and I always found like that was kind of like a great entry point at the beginning of the year to build those partnerships with other classrooms around the world. And then those were usually the same teachers and classrooms that I just kept connecting with throughout the year. So it was just a nice time, you know, right away in October, you know, to help make those collaborations through that would last kind of the whole year long. So that's why I just kind of added that as my first slide. In the past, usually I've connected with people not really necessarily through Seesaw, but just through Twitter and through the first chat community, and kind of made some partnerships that way. But this year, it just seemed like such an easy, nice fit, since I'm using Seesaw with my students all the time, to just have, you know, make those connections through the Seesaw blogs. Because the students are obviously going to be doing drawings and activities and videos that go along with the GRA books, and it's just really pretty much a click, and it's on our blog, and then we can just share some connections that way. So through our Seesaw Facebook first grade group, we just decided there was a few people that had put on that they wanted to connect their blogs, and I just started this Google Doc here that you'll see. If you want to share or share your Seesaw blogs, you can just put your information there. I think we had maybe like 6 people at this point, but I know there's a ton of people that maybe have found each other other ways too, but feel free to add your information to this Google Doc if you're interested in sharing with some first grade teachers. Or even, you know, other grades as well. That's fine. And we just kind of have written down some ideas for different books. And honestly, things have been kind of busy so far. So I'm just kind of looking forward to next week with the first book, Kualalu, and just kind of maybe doing a bit of get to know you with the classrooms. And then because I don't know about everyone else, but like in my school, I love Global Read Aloud, but there's also like limited amount of time that we have in each day. So it's not always possible to do a lot of extra things to go with it. I always for sure just like enjoy and love the book with the students, and then maybe do a few other things that we can connect through our Seesaw blog, but very focused on skills that my first graders need. So I just like the flexibility that there's, you know, like Pernille said, there's no lesson plan, there's no specific, you have to do this, this, and this. It's just very flexible. So if it's a week where you're really busy with your students and you have lots going on, maybe you add a few things to the blog that other classrooms can share. And maybe if you have more time, maybe you make those connections through the blog and do a few extra activities, or maybe you do a Google Hangout or something like that with those classrooms after you met them through the Seesaw blog.
Thank you so much, Michelle. If you guys didn't understand already, what's in blue there at the top of the screen, that's the link that you can click later to join, to fill in your information in her blog document so that you can connect with her classroom. Thanks, Michelle. We're going to talk a little bit now about how you can create some things in other apps and then add those resources to Seesaw. So Sarah and Kim, do you want to explain a little bit about your Padlet and your Buncee?
We would love to. We're so excited to be here. I'm Sarah Frater.
I'm Kim Johnson.
And we teach second grade in Minnesota.
And we use Seesaw and Buncee every day to flip our classrooms. And we are so excited about the possibilities that we have come up with for the Global Read Aloud. One thing that we did was to create a Padlet that we can share ideas on and resources. And it's an Australia-based unit which has Membox in it, so it fits really well with the Global Read Aloud. It is so easy to use Padlet to collaborate with your teammates and to share. Our PBL on the left there ties into the second grade standards in Minnesota, so we are super excited.
One thing we found is that sharing Seesaw ideas can be tricky, and so if you put them on a Padlet, we can share our Seesaw ideas and our Buncees at like our team meetings. So Padlet's been really helpful, not just for the Global Read Aloud, but for that too. In this Padlet, you are welcome to any of these resources. We have an interactive map that practices map skills that I know you need in first and second grade. There's a Kahoot with games about Australia and Australian animals. We have to write a report in second grade, so there's all these kinds of resources to tie in about Australian animals. We have STEAM projects. We use Buncee to flip our classroom or Seesaw every day for like daily 5 rotations. And so those are also included and they match your standards. So you can like kind of tie in what you're doing with the Global Read Aloud to what you're supposed to be doing. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. We use Buncee, ChatterKids, Newsela, ThingLink, Epic, PicKids, and virtual field trips. And if you click on that Padlet, you have access to all of those.
Thank you, Sarah and Kim. Thank you guys so much. Listeners to the webinar right now, when you get these slides, you can click on either of those 2 images there and it will take you right to those resources. So we just appreciate your willingness to share, Sarah and Kim, so much. And their Twitter information is in that introduction slide, so you guys can ask them more questions and connect with them on Twitter. I want other Sarah to talk a little bit about what she's doing with book creator templates. Can you take it away, Sarah?
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Melko. I am a K-5 digital learning specialist in Wisconsin, former first grade teacher after many years. And so, like Michelle was saying, I also took part in the Global Read Aloud for many years with my students as well. And so coming into this current position, was very excited to be able to promote it and have other teachers on board. So that being said, I saw so many wonderful things out there being shared with the HyperDocs, and I really wanted something that the K2 kiddos could do a little bit differently than what we've done in the past. So my resource is a book creator template that I had put together, and much like Michelle and others have said, we have so much on our plates already that it's hard to add in more. And so as I created the pages, I really was looking at the kindergarten and first grade standards and tried to build those into the pages. So there are standards that build on fluency, character traits, comparing and contrasting, things of that sort, so that in essence you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will, and still enjoying the beauty of the read aloud. I also purposely brought in the app smashing. It includes not only the book creator aspect, but Flipgrid is embedded in, and Padlet, and obviously Seesaw fits into many of the different pages. And again, there was purpose in that, as I wanted to backchain various apps that we use in our district and start giving kids exposure into those apps, so that as the year went on, it wasn't that it was a new app and we had to stop teaching to build upon that, but could then start using it more as a tool. So there are a lot of opportunities for global connections through it. Like I mentioned, there's a Padlet board built in, there's a Flipgrid board built in. Seesaw is obviously built in, like I said, in many areas, and with the connected blogs that people have talked about, it's a great opportunity to then share out the pic collages and such that students are making. And then at the end, the beauty of it was that once the book creator is done, students could then share their entire book creator project out on Seesaw, whether it be through the blogs or whether sharing it out with their parents to show what they've done over the 6 weeks with the MEMFOX stories as well.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And listeners, when you get the slides, you can click on those links there and it'll take you right to the resources that Sarah is willing to share with you. We just appreciate all of your willingness to share everything you've made for Global Read Aloud. Let's talk for just a minute about book snaps, because I taught big kids and this is something that really resonated with them and that they really enjoyed doing. In fact, what you can see pictured at the left of your screen is actually a book snap created on Snapchat, which sometimes big kids are allowed to use. So you can create a book snap in another app, but you can also, of course, create it right in Seesaw using the labels and text and emojis. But I wanted to make sure you had the step-by-step instructions for how your students could do a book snap if you want them to do that as part of their reading response. So students are just choosing photo and taking a picture of a page in the book that they're reading or that you're reading to them. And then in Seesaw, you click the T to choose Add Label. And then you can start adding emojis, or you can use those pen tools to draw right on the book page. So those are the tools you need to create book snaps. And if you want to learn a lot more about book snaps and how they're used by Seesaw users, you can click on that link that's in blue at the top of this particular slide. And in general, there's lots of other ways that you can use Seesaw tools for reading responses. So this example is using the camera, choosing photo for a reading response. But we wanted to remind you that you can also use the video, the note, or the drawing for a variety of different ways that your students can respond to the reading. And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of that in the next slide. So remember that you can ask them to do a character drawing or character analysis. You can have them retell the story because they have ways to record audio and video in Seesaw, or maybe you just want to pose a question or a prompt and let them respond to that. And it's great that students have so many choices for how they choose to show what they know. Here's some examples. These are from books that are not necessarily Global Read Aloud books, but I just wanted to make sure you could see pictured how students could maybe respond to a prompt or a question in the note form. That's in the middle of the screen. Right now you can see it in the middle. And then you see a couple of different retellings of the story. At the bottom right, somebody drawing a picture and then doing an audio retelling. And then you have another drawing at the top left. So lots of ways your students can use these Seesaw tools as well as the camera when doing their reading responses during Global Read Aloud. So we hope you've picked up a few good new ideas tonight as far as what your students could be creating in Seesaw as it pertains to Global Read Aloud. I always want to remind you too that you can put everything that your students post during Global Read Aloud in one folder. Okay, so you can create a folder called Global Read Aloud, and then they can put everything they're creating in that folder. A trick would be, of course, to use punctuation in the folder name to bump it to the top of the list if you want to make sure they can find that folder easily and quickly in their list. And if you want to make a hallway or bulletin board display where you print out some of their Seesaw posts, you can print a whole folder at a time. So you could print your whole GRA folder all with just one click. And I included the link there. It's at where it says here's how. Just click that later when you're looking at the slides, and it will remind you how to print a whole folder at once. Angela, are we thinking we have time for a few questions still tonight?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think we could talk forever. We have so many stellar teachers on this panel. I feel like we could hang out all night. But I want to give people the opportunity to ask questions. So if you do have questions, go ahead and type them into the question box. I have been responding to a few of the questions, and I know we have about 7 or so minutes left. One thing that I just wanted to note as well is, you know, we have so many great ideas that were just shared tonight as a starting point if you want to jump into those, and I appreciate all the sharing from all of our panelists here tonight. But keep in mind too, you can also just read these books within your classroom and have students respond and start that way. One of the questions coming in right now from Bobby is, I have teachers using Seesaw and who are connecting, who have never used Seesaw blogs to connect. And it is super, super easy to connect via Seesaw blogs. It's not complicated. If you are already using Seesaw, it's literally, you know, 2 taps and students can publish work to a Seesaw blog. You can also put a password on that blog if you only want certain other classes to be able to see it or to connect with your class. Really, really easy. So definitely check out help.seesaw.me for resources on how to do that. Really, really easy, and I highly suggest doing that. More questions coming in. Let's see. So just a reminder, you're not going to be able to click on any of the links live here in the webinar. You will have to wait till the slides come to your inbox, and then all of those links in the slides are actually live and active. Jamie wants to know, is there a limit of number of classes you can connect to on Seesaw blogs? I think, you know, it was for a long time 10. I almost feel like we bumped it up to 25, but I would have to confirm on that one. Gabrielle wants to know, what about a global classroom? Is there a connected Global Read Aloud for Fenway and Hattie? So Gabrielle wants to know, I don't know, panelists, have you heard anything specific about that specific book and Global Read Aloud?
Actually, if you want to send me a message on Twitter, we made that Padlet this summer for another, like a project-based learning thing, and then it just happened to tie in with Global Read Aloud. But we've connected our 2nd grade class with about 7 other classrooms on a blog, and then we're going to make funsies and stuff for that, which we will share too. We just haven't done it yet. And so she can send me a message on Twitter, and she can be added to ours.
Perfect, and that's Sarah Frater, so
yep.
Message her, that would be perfect. Allison is asking, she says, I'm facilitating 2 3rd grade classrooms from 2 different districts, about 45 to 50 students. Any tips for managing a large group on Seesaw? How about Sarah Sarah, let's see. Sarah, do you want to take that one?
Oh gosh. Um,
Since you work with
I'm
so
not
many
quite sure.
classrooms, what are your tips?
Yeah, I would probably go through Seesaw blogs, to be quite honest, because it really opens you up in a way where you can all interconnect easily. The other thing is you could probably do it with, and again, this just depends on how you're set up, but I know with some of my classrooms, we've also done it as co-teachers, but I don't know if that would be something that would work well if you're in different districts. So in that case, I'd probably stick with the Seesaw blog option.
Yeah, I think Seesaw blogs would be super. It is really, really easy to do. You can definitely find full webinars about Seesaw blogs and tutorial videos. I mean, you can set up your blog in 2 minutes, and I promise it's not overwhelming. Lots of questions coming in. So Jennifer wants to know. Let's see. Couple questions specifically about Seesaw blogs. Do parents see it? Can you select which folders you want to make global? So basically, when you are using a Seesaw blog, everything starts in your Seesaw class. And if you want to share it to the blog, you just tap the globe icon under that specific post and it goes to the blog. So you can decide what goes there. Parents can see the blog, but they have to go to the blog website to actually view the blog. It is not in the family app. So, of course, they would already see the content if it's been added by their child because they see it in the Seesaw class as well. All right, lots of questions here. Let's see, questions, people saying, I want to connect with other teachers. I would suggest, as Michelle, if you want to talk a little bit, Michelle, about how you started making connections through Facebook and maybe how people could do that, because we're getting a lot of people asking how they can connect with other teachers.
Yeah, I would say if you are not connected to the Facebook groups by grade level, which was a fantastic idea, we have, gosh, in our first grade group, we have about 1,300 first grade teachers, I think now, and it's just been great. So there's a group for every grade level. So I would just kind of go that route if you want to stick with the same grade, which I think is nice for the Global Read Aloud because your activities would be, you know, for that grade level. So the Google Doc I shared here was basically for first grade teachers, but I'm sure you could just hook up with that Facebook group for the grade level that you're interested in and just throw it out there, and then maybe one of the moderators could just kind of get a Google Doc. I mean, that was really easy to just get everyone in one spot. So that's what I would say would be maybe the easiest way to go about it.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect tip. And so on this slide here, you're seeing that we have the main Facebook group called Seesaw Teachers, but we do have grade level specific groups as well. If you just search Seesaw Teachers in your grade level, you will just come right to it. That's probably going to be the most efficient way to find people at your specific grade level to connect with. You can just put a post on there and say, hey, I teach, you know, 5th grade. I'd love to connect during Global Read Aloud, you know, who's interested in joining, and then just start making those connections that way. Thank you everyone for showing up tonight, and like I said, I feel like we could have endless conversation about this. I think we're all really excited about supporting students responding and connecting during Global Read Aloud. So please share your ideas, continue the conversation, and know that you can always reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook, any of our other social media channels. But note that you will get this recording and the slides emailed to you because you registered for this webinar. So Julie, anything else we need to tell people before we say goodbye?
These are such great suggestions, everyone. Don't forget on Twitter, each of the books for Global Read Aloud has its own hashtag. So if you're a Twitter person, you might look that way as well, because I'm seeing quite a lot of activity there where people are trying to connect. Be sure to share all of your creations with us, though, and at Seesaw in your tweets so we can see them. We'd love to see whatever your students do to observe Global Read Aloud this year. Thank you so much for joining us.